And today we're going to be talking about micro habits. And on my channel, I talk a lot about the importance of beingness, especially if you're someone with a more feminine essence. And if you're a human design projector, how the state in which we reside in our body and our energy and our mind really attracts the things that we most desire from our core hearts. But our doing, the things that we do, our behaviors can affect our state of beingness. And that's what we'll talk about today. So it's really important to look at our behaviors and to look at our habits. And this video, I'll share more about the energy of micro habits and things like that. But I will also share some of my own and the things that I do in my daily routine near the end of this video. And I would love for all of you to share what you do. So I know for me, an example is if I go to yoga, if I have my practice, I've been like this for over a decade, at least 3 times a week. If I can make it to my favorite studio, do the sequence that I like, it grounds me and it helps me to be in a state of beingness that is connected to the earth and very clear. So in that case, my habit, and this one's not so much of a micro habit, it's more of a weekly behavior, really has a huge effect on how I show up to my work. Another example is if I drink coffee in the afternoon, if that would be something that I do every day, and I really don't like to drink coffee in the afternoon, my state of beingness would be jittery and frenetic and ungrounded. So these behaviors, the things that we do, have an effect on how we are, and how we are, especially as feminine essence beings, as human design projectors, have a huge influence on how we consciously create the life that we're living. Hi, welcome in. Oh, so good to connect with all of you. Hi, Taylor. Hi, Goddess Lucida. Beautiful. Thank you for saying hi. And so let's see. I will say that this is something that I work with my clients on to some degree. Is we talk a lot about what gives us energy. So what gives you energy? What adds to your energy well? And then what kind of depletes you? And that's a really good inquiry to start looking at some of this, like what fills you and then what depletes you. And I will say this is a tangent, but the next step to this consciousness or this way of thinking is to actually say nothing can deplete me or add to my energy. I'm connected to an unlimited fountain in my body. That's really how to live in the most abundant way, I think. But we can start looking at behaviors because habits do affect us and notice when the body feels drained or notice when it feels energized and start in that place. Um, this this video will really work with that, but also looking at the habits that affect your vision, like what you want to create. And I call this conscious creation. You know, we're always creating something in our lives. It's just a matter of, are you conscious in it? Are you conscious in the way that your thoughts and your state of beingness and your behaviors and your words contribute to the unfolding of relationships, of career, of big life decisions, small day-to-day experiences? One thing that I've been really getting into this year is called The Compound Effect. And I read the book by Darren Hardy earlier this year. And I gobbled it up. I loved it so much. It was really soothing for me to understand that our everyday behaviors and habits add up to something really big, to the big picture, and to reflect on how they do. It felt very empowering for me. By the way, I have an Amazon store. I don't know that I shared that with all of you, but I do have an Amazon store, and that book is in the Amazon store. Let me see if I can. Um, I'm going to put it in the show notes, actually. I don't want to spend too much time digging for the link, but I do have an Amazon store. It has some of my favorite beauty products, my favorite books. It has my favorite items as a new mom, all that stuff. I don't think I've announced that yet. So if you want this book, it's in my Amazon store. I highly, highly recommend it. And it's this idea that rather than a big one solution fix to changing anything, like that's what we're kind of obsessed with in society is like, how can I just get that one, that one pill that fixes everything, that one solution answer? It's this theory that you need to examine your small daily habits in association with that thing. So an example would be that, rather than say, I'm going to get in great physical shape, so I'm going to start next month going to the gym 7 days a week for a full hour and change like that dramatically. Start small, 10 minutes a day, 6 days a week. You could even start by going 5 minutes a day, 6 days a week. And you start really, really small. You normalize it in your brain and your nervous system. It doesn't feel like a burden. And then you don't discount those small actions as insignificant. And they add up over time. So you're rewiring your behaviors, your habits, your nervous system slowly but surely, and it starts to build and build and build and build. With money, you could start saying, if you've never saved before, you say, next month, I'm going to start saving 10% of my income and just go really drastic like that. Or you could start really small and say, I'm going to save $5 a day for the next 3 months. Something really attainable and bite-sized, and you have a jar and you put $5 every day into the jar. And starting small, so developing that habit, developing the ritual, having success in that so that it builds over time, you can start to add. Rather than going big, burning out, treat the small behaviors as significant and important. I also love that the compound effect asks us to approach each day as if it were being repeated 365 times. So what if you just repeated the day that you just lived 365 times? It's a really interesting inquiry. So this would be, let's see, what would be an example? So let's say that 10 minutes, the 10 minutes that you work out 6 times a week. That's 60 minutes a week. That's an hour a week that you're working out, only 10 minutes a day. That ends up being 4 hours a month and 52 hours in a year that you're working out that you weren't working out before. Rather than trying for 2 weeks to do it 7 hours a week and just burning out, you're building in this habit that's going to have longevity. Or for the money, saving $5 a day for a whole year, it ends up being, I did the math before, $1,825. So just $5 a day, all of a sudden you get this chunk of money. And in the book, Darren talks about something called Big Mo, which is that things compound positively or negatively, that when practiced enough, repeated over time, they start to snowball and build a big momentum. He gives this example in his book. There's two friends, and I'm not going to give the exact example because I don't really remember it, but let's say friend one, Jared. He decides to start reading 10 minutes of self-development, material before bed every night. Just 10 minutes, that's it. And maybe he does a short 5-minute walk after dinner. He decides to instill that small habit. And then he reduces, drinking alcohol to 1 day a week, something like that. And friend two, let's say is Steve, he decides to install this big screen TV in his house. And so his TV time increases several hours a week. And he decides to add one more going out drinking, day a week. And he starts baking. I think the example is just baking for his family, baking sugar, like baked goods regularly, like weekly, because he makes these muffins or something and they love them. And so these seemingly small habits are not that big. They're not that drastic. They do them over time. And initially, for the first year, even, you don't see results between Jared and Steve, that they're pretty much on the same playing field. But Jared is maybe instilling a bit more discipline by doing these things, and Steve is kind of following that pleasure. The book is saying, Darren's saying that after 18 months, that's kind of the sweet spot, things start to compound and they start to change. And Jared, the one who's, doing the self-development, walking after dinner. He starts to lose weight, become more physically in shape. He starts to feel very clear-headed. His marriage starts to increase in satisfaction and connection. And Steve, who's, eating weekly sugar, watching a lot of TV, he starts to gain a lot of weight, feel unhealthy, feel sluggish. It impacts his marriage. He starts having marital issues. And these things take time, but these habits were small. They stayed committed to them, and then they had this impact eventually. The key here is that it takes discipline initially, but eventually it will add up to something big. They're tiny at the moment, and then it adds up to something really, really big. So it's also this importance of not overdoing it, which I stated before, like not going too hard where you're just not doing anything. I think it's an interesting conversation because when we talk a lot about feminine energy, it's going with the flow. It's like, okay, well, I'm just going to flow and follow what feels good in the moment. And there's some beauty in that, but also to balance that with this masculine, this is the structure and this is the goals. These are the goals I've set for myself. And these will over time lead up to something that really means a lot to me in my beingness. It's having both. It's not being too rigid in that. It's being able to let go and do something that you want to do a little bit, but also having structure and having a bit of rigidity and saying, no, I'm going to show up and do this thing for myself, even though it may not feel good right now. Eventually, I'm going to see how it impacts my life positively, and then I'm going to want to do it. I work a lot with my clients on this. Initially, some of them maybe don't ever practice yoga or have never really had a regular meditation practice. And they, because of the accountability of my program, show up for this curriculum that I've designed for them from my content. And I say, initially, it's going to feel like you're doing this to check it off a list and be accountable to, our session next week. But what happens is that once they practice this enough over a period of weeks, and inevitably, like they'll have a week or two where they fall off and they just like, I didn't get to my practices, but I feel it. And now I want to get back. And most likely by the time that my clients stop working with me, they have this desire that's natural to show up and feel good in their body because it becomes something that doesn't take a lot of discipline anymore, that they can feel the benefits and they want that. So there are some things where you can feel the benefits right away. And there's some things that take a little bit longer. So another example that I thought of is there's this office that I worked at, and they had a candy bowl in the front, and all the coworkers would come and grab candy at least, one a day. They also had a refrigerator that has soda, like Coke, Sprite, Diet Coke, Diet Mountain Dew. And you can just take it whenever you want it. I like a Coca-Cola every now and then. It's, like paired in the right way every now and then. But if I had every day, even just taken one candy, just one, it seems so harmless, one candy a day or one Coke a day. Think of how that adds up. That's 365 soda cans a day. Even if you just have one can for lunch or 365 pieces of candy a year, times that by 5, times that by your whole life. Think of how much candy you're ingesting. And so this compound effect asks us to zoom back on our life and see the big picture and how these small things, yes, the behaviors add up to a big thing, but also there's something about the energy of that. Like, I'm not going to have this candy because I value vitality. And if I start having this candy once a day and that becomes a habit, then the sugar is going to influence my vitality over time. And then I'm making this energetic decision to value my vitality. And so there's something about the energetic decision to do that that's really important. Hi, everyone. Feel free to say hi in the chat. You all know I love hearing from you. And let me know if you have questions, if you have comments to what I'm sharing, any of that. This is a different video than I normally do. I normally talk a little bit more about beingness, but I think it's so important to address doingness too, like what we do. Another thing if I see a wrapper or a piece of trash on the floor, I pick it up because I am someone who honors the earth. And that to me is an integrity in it. Like, let's say, once a week I pick up a wrapper of trash over a period of a year, that's 52 pieces of trash I picked up. And that adds up over time. And the integrity of like, I'm going to stop for a moment and honor the earth and pick this up because I value the earth and I am the earth. And I'm going to take my time to do that, even though it's like kind of gross. Obviously, it's hand sanitizer after whatever, but that's just who I am. There's something about the integrity of that. Also, if I'm at the gym and I'm doing reps, I'll do one more rep than usual. Like on my third set, I'll do like at least one more rep just because I want to be the person who gives a little bit extra, just gives a little bit more. So these are examples of ways like, are you the person who goes just a little bit above and beyond? What's your energy doing in those moments? Or are you someone who's kind of slacking energetically? So the step one that I would give for all of you is to decide who you want to be and what you value. And this is a whole thing. I have a program that I work with clients through on this. I help them come up with their personal purpose statement, what they do, and then their core essences or what I call it. And I actually have a series of videos about this as well. But you can source these things from the heart, I think is the best place to do that. If you source from the brain, from the mind, it often, comes with conditioning, the conditioning from society, from family, all these things. But you want to decide what your big picture is. Like, what are you here for? Like, what makes you tick? Like, who do you want to be and how do you want to show up in the world? That's step one. You have to know where you're holding the steering wheel towards. So an example for me, things that I value, obviously vitality and radiance. It's a huge part of who I am. I love taking care of my body. I love taking care of my energy, my spirit. I find that that really helps me to navigate through relationships, through my career. I value spirituality, my relationship with God. I value family and I value love. I really if I think of my highest form and my highest expression, it is that I am a being of love. And that in every interaction, the hard ones, the easy ones, the smooth ones, the rough ones, that I show up in love. So love is a core value of mine. So then you notice what daily habits compound positively, because things can compound negatively too, like in that example, towards your vision, who you want to be. So I'm going to give an example, for radiance. Things that would negatively impact my radiance would be sugar. And I know I gave the example of the candy bowl. Candy is not a huge temptation for me. I could be mindless and just grab one every day because it is a little bit of a hit. But what's more of a temptation for me would be pastries. I've always loved pastries. I think I get it from my grandma, like the coffee and the pastry combo. Oh, I love like a muffin, a scone, and from a really good bakery. So over time, it is noted by many professionals that sugar has a negative impact on health and on skin specifically. So if I'm having a muffin or a pastry a day, that's 365 muffins every year, and you compound that, times a life, that's a lot of sugar. What would compound positively would be to have daily collagen. As we get older, our collagen levels decrease. So having collagen is really important to kind of increase the skin elasticity, plumpness, things like that. Instilling a morning and night skincare routine and sticking to it even when I'm tired. Making sure that I do my skincare routine at night. Having sun protection, making sure that I'm not out in the sun unprotected for a large period of time. I have very fair skin, so I have to watch that. These are things that will compound positively over time. Negatively would be not having skin protection. That would cause an accelerated aging in my skin over time and dull my radiance. Examples for family, I think, would be having weekly family time for the three of us to have quality time. So even if it's for an hour, like we take the little one to the splash pad, or we go to baby story time in the library, or we go to the lake, we go to a beach, things like that, even an hour, most likely 2 hours. So even if it's an hour, that's 365 hours of quality time a year with my family. Or double that if it's 2 hours. So even if it's once a week, or, if done mindlessly and not intentionally, using that time to just kind of put the TV on, and then my husband and I kind of zoning out and scrolling on our phones while the little one watches TV during that time. That's 365 hours of screen time. There was a wild statistic. I can't remember what podcast I was listening to. It was that adolescents now, I don't want to, I don't quote me on this. It was that they spend, I think, 7 hours a day on the screen. That's wild. Talk about compound. So again, this quality time with family is going to compound into connection, into the health of my baby, into the health of all three of us, because it feels good to spend time together and to build bond. You can also explore the compound effect of your thoughts too. Like what we're thinking can totally compound. If you look in the mirror and you say, I love you every day, you're saying, I love you 365 times a year. If you look in the mirror and you feel, you know, you start to do negative self-talk, that's going to compound in a certain way because our thoughts have a profound effect on our behaviors, on the energy that we're emitting, on our state of beingness. So noticing, this is where mindfulness can really come in, is noticing the thoughts that we're thinking, your inner dialogue, and seeing if there can be some habit around that. I love that you pick up trash. I try to do that as well. I really appreciate this topic as I'm trying to incorporate more of divine masculine energy into my life. I'm so glad that this is resonating with you. The pastries, it helps me that I don't eat dairy or eggs, but the temptation is sometimes still there. Yeah. And I do, like I also don't ever want to be too rigid where I can't relax, but there's that dance, excuse me, that dance between the masculine and the feminine, like being able to, if there's a beautiful moment that presents itself and I'm having coffee with a friend and there's this amazing looking pastry there, I could have the experience of enjoying my taste buds and just being in this delightful human body and having this experience. But if it becomes a habit, that's really where to look at it. And if you see, I don't know, it's just a really nice inquiry. If you look back on your day and you said, if I had this day 365 times, if I had the same day every year, what would be the result? It's a really honest reflection. So I would be curious for those of you tuning in, what are some of your micro habits? Like what do you do every day that has a positive effect on your life in some way? And I'm going to share some of mine next. And what are things that compound in a negative way for you, that compound in a way that you don't want to result in something like a big picture. And do you have any questions about any of this? I too, I think that's probably why I gobbled that book up, The Compound Effect, because being pregnant and being postpartum, I was in a lot of feminine energy. In some ways masculine because kind of caretaking and caring for the baby, but it's also this mix of masculine, feminine energy. And I was really desiring some sort of structure. And so coming back to these small daily habits felt really grounding for me. And I'll tell you my process. I'm going to tell you my process next. So the first things I want to share my morning routine. And these are things I'm sharing what I do for Radiance specifically. You can do this for any value that you have. But for me, in the morning for health, vitality, radiance, I oil pull, I floss and tongue scrape. So taking care of oral health. I rinse my face with water because I wash it at night and put vitamin C and then sunblock on before I go outside. And then one thing that I started doing is I drink lemon water and I have a little bit of a salt mixture that I put into the water. So I heat up some water, it's warm, and then I put lemon, half of a squeeze of lemon, and this, it's called Sole, like a salty elixir, just a spoonful of that for my trace minerals. And I drink water before I drink my coffee. So that was a big shift for me because I was drinking my coffee first, but I really wanted to hydrate first. And now I do that every single morning. And then usually my little one wants to snuggle while he drinks his bottle. So, like, I just snuggle with him and he plays with my fingers, and it's so sweet. This is typically like as my water is heating up and my coffee is heating up. And I did an audio recording of, I call it my personal constitution. So it holds my personal purpose statement, like who I am deciding to be and my core essences, as well as several affirmations that resonate with me at this point in my life. It's about 5 minutes. And I put that on and I listen to it and I snuggle with my baby as he plays with my fingers. And sometimes I do a morning prayer for him as I'm holding him. So this is my morning routine. And these small things add up over time. I'm oil swishing 365 times a year. So that is really helping with teeth, with oral hygiene. It's helping with breath, all these things. And then in the evening, I wash my face really well. And I do a moisturizer. I have a retinol. I do nasal spray. This is kind of dorky. Okay, so I do nasal spray to open up my nasal passages, and then I tape my mouth shut. I don't know if you all have ever heard of this, but it's really good for you to sleep with a closed mouth and breathe in and out of your nose. It's for optimal health. So yes, I do that. And then I'll put castor oil on my eyelids, my eyebrows, because that really helps with hair growth. I put castor oil around my eyes, and sometimes I put it on my hands too. And then I use a sound healing app to fall asleep. It's called New Calm. I love it. And that helps me to fall asleep in a really nourishing way. So this is my night routine. And I hold tried and true to these two routines, and they like bookend my day in a really positive way. Taylor, my skin has been showing my diet isn't helpful. A lot of sugar, like you said. Yeah. So it's just interesting to reflect on that. So if radiance is a core value or beauty or health, and we see something in our bodies that don't resonate with that core value or that essence, we could ask ourselves, what are some behaviors that are in the way of that value of mine? And can I have a little bit of grit, a little bit of discipline to not eat the sugar? It doesn't have to be like, okay, I'm just going to do a no sugar, because like I said in the beginning, that's going to have a really like probably a burnout. Unless you're someone who's really extreme, you'll probably just you'll probably just bounce back. It could be, I'm going to eat one less muffin this week. I'm going to eat two less muffins this next week. But you slowly work behaviors back. I take care of my doggy, wash my face, and do my whole skincare routine. Great. I make a smoothie, go make my bed as I listen to the song Perfect Day or a short meditation, and I tell myself I love myself. That's so beautiful. I love that. It's a great example. Oh yeah, something I've been doing is making a green smoothie every morning too. I really enjoy that. It helps me to feel really invigorated. Negative aspects, I can get looped into thoughts of questioning my actions and decisions. So really getting into that mental energy. So an antidote to that could be, can I source from my body and from my heart more? So once you feel that loop, what is it like to come into your heart, either do a heart meditation or a body scan or some sort of stretch, to not try to shut the questioning down, because the brain is just trying to help you, trying to assist you, but to just let it do its thing and then bring your consciousness into your body, I think would be really helpful. Thank you for sharing, you guys. So in addition to these morning and night routines, I have weekly lists in my planner. So I have things 3 times a week, what I like to do. And I like to go to the gym almost every day, but I don't strength train every day. Sometimes I do yoga, sometimes I take a long shower, sometimes I do steam room, but I will do strength training 3 times a week. I think skeletal muscle is really important for health and longevity, and I love feeling my strength. So that's something new that I started doing after I had my baby is I started doing strength training and I really enjoy it. So I do that 3 times a week. I foam roll. That feels really good, kind of getting into my fascia, my connective tissue. I'll probably foam roll for 10 minutes. And then I, work. It's called like a neck lift. I lay on the floor and I like lift up my neck to build some strength in the back of my neck because we're always hunched over. And I just feel over time, you can get like a reverse curve in your neck. So I do that. And then I do something called angel arms on the walls to counteract the effects of always being front loaded, holding my baby. So trying to work the rotation of my shoulders to kind of keep that nice and open. And I exfoliate my face 3 times a week. And then I also do what I call pleasure practice. So I do Qigong practices, and that's really important for me is to practice kind of circulating energy and holding pleasure in my body. Um, so once I do those, I literally check. So I check it on my list. You can see I was referring to my list that I was looking at my planner. I do a check and it feels really good. And then at the end of the week, I'm like, did I do this 3 times? Because even though I'm not doing it daily, doing it 3 times a week, that adds up over a year, right? I can step back and say, wow, I did strength training 3 times a week times 52 weeks. That feels really good. 1 time a week, I go to a yin yoga class. I forgot to say 3 times a week is yoga flow too. So I'd like to go to my studio and do 3 times a week yoga flow. 1 time a week, I like to do a yin practice, which is that passive stretching, the working in the connective tissue. I like to do this full body skin ritual with oil massage, gua sha, cupping. I used to do that way more. And as a new mom, I just don't have time to do it. But 1 time a week, I said, 1 time a week, I can do it. It makes me just feel like a queen. I love it. It makes my skin so soft. Takes probably 30 minutes. I usually do it at the gym when my babe's in childcare. And then I usually do a mud mask once a week and face gua sha once a week, which I used to do again way more often. But some of these I had to pare them down to do once or 3 times a week once I became a mother. But I put a check on them. And then, today it's Sunday, and if I'm at a Sunday and I'm like, okay, what haven't I done? And then I try to finish what my goals are. This is my structure. So this helps me to feel successful, to have integrity, and then to know that I'm on my path towards vitality. Excellent suggestions. Thank you. You're so welcome. So any other ideas for micro habits, you guys? I would love to hear from you. Things that I try to do as well, like little habit stacking would be I try to put sunblock on my hands when I drive. So I have a sunblock in the car. And then before I drive, I'll just put some sunblock on my hands to protect the skin of my hands. Whenever I go into the steam room at the gym, I do scalp massage to kind of stimulate blood flow in my scalp, to stimulate hair growth. And it feels amazing. I don't know why. I mean, scalp massages feel so good. So whenever I'm in the steam room, I associate it with a scalp massage. And then I try to do alternate nostril breathing and breathing exercise in the steam room as well. So these are examples of habit stacking. Like I associate a certain environment with a certain habit. And these things take some grit over time. Like it's like, okay, I have to like think about this, but then you eventually just do them. It just becomes your way of being because they're instilled as a habit. What about slowness? Moving slower, doing things slower. I love that. I think so that could be a value of like slowness, as I'm someone who moves slowly, then what are behaviors that help you move slowly? You know, you can notice when you are moving really fast. So let's say if you're someone who eats really fast, if you notice that you eat fast when you're by yourself, for example, or not, when you're having lunch with somebody else and talking, Then you bring some awareness to that and you say, okay, I'm going to take 3 conscious breaths before I eat. And I'm going to taste each bite and chew this many times with each bite and try to have a whole meal that's not distracted with technology and that is a mindful eating. So that's an example. Or let's see, maybe you feel really rushed in the morning, right? If you have to get to work. So you say, to slow down, I'm going to wake up 15 minutes earlier so that I have more space to move slowly in my morning. I hope that helps. If you have any more examples or any thoughts on that, I'd love for you to share. Habits that I'm still working on. So I still am trying to navigate these into my schedule in some way. I know that vinegar is really good for you and especially blood sugar levels. And the recommendation is to have at least 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar or vinegar. I follow the glucose goddess on Instagram. I really love her work. And I just cannot, you guys, I do not like the taste. So I'm trying with 1 teaspoon, just 1 teaspoon, and I can kind of do that. And I'm trying to slowly work that into my routine as just being the norm, but I haven't quite gotten there yet. I have a red light face mask that in a neck and chest mask that's supposed to be really good for stimulating collagen, for stimulating mitochondria in the skin, for skin health. And I would love to wear those daily. I can do the neck and chest mask in the morning while I'm drinking my coffee, but I don't like to put the other mask on because then I can't drink my coffee. So that's a block that I'm having. And then when I go to sleep, I have a red light hack on my iPhone. So I'm trying to get into the habit of just turning that on so that I'm not taking blue light as I sleep. And then also putting my phone on airplane mode and it's not good to be in like the EMFs of the phone while you're sleeping. It's not good to have that around the head. So these are things, it's very small, but I have to think about it to do it because I'm just not thinking about it before bed. Also, I'm really working on pulling my love for, I know we're talking about sugar a lot in this video, but it's just the example that I have for me in my life. So I'm trying to only have pastries 3 times a week. I'm not taking it down to like none. I'm doing 3 times a week for now, seeing if I can get it down. So 4 days out of the week, I'm not having them and only eating sugar when it's something I really love. So if it's from a bakery that is just like has the ingredients I love, that tastes amazing, not just having, a muffin from a gas station or something. Those are my boundaries around sugar at this point. And I did do a sugar detox earlier this year in the beginning of the year. It was 1 week. I loved it. It was really amazing. But again, it wasn't a long-term change for me. It was a nice refresh. But what I'm looking for now is these micro habits. I'm at the gym right now. Hi, Livia. And brought you with me to enjoy while I work out. I love that. I do asanas practice to help with my thyroid every day before breakfast and dinner. Great example of a micro habit. I love the hand sunscreen idea. Yep. And so to set yourself up for something like that with a hand sunscreen, you want to make sure there's sunscreen in the car. So you just do that. And then I love, I'm curious which asanas you do, which postures to help with your thyroid. That's beautiful. So then you're doing them twice daily, 365 times a day. So times 365 times 2. And that's how many, that becomes your life. That becomes you. The things that we do every day become who we are. They have a huge impact on us. And you can apply this to work too. So if I do a weekly live stream, if I go live every week, that's 52 new videos on my channel a year. So for 2 years, and that'd be 104 videos. And I have about 120 or something right now. And my channel is it just compounds, keeps getting more views, more comments. It's monetized now. So in the beginning, it wasn't like that, but I just kept the habit going. I kept putting content out, and then the following snowballed, and it continues to snowball, and it will continue to snowball. Same with, I have a text message list. So if I send out a weekly text message list and touch in with, my audience in that way. That's 52 messages a year. That's 50, and then times however many cell phones that have signed up to be on that text message list. That's an impact. Same with like a weekly podcast episode, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, what are you doing weekly or daily in your business? And how can that compound into something that you want to build? Even if you're not seeing the results right away, that's key with this. You probably won't see results right away unless you get that immediate benefit of feeling good after a yoga flow or meditation or something. Like, how can you show up for your habits even when you're not feeling the effects, even when it might not be pleasurable? That's that masculine energy, and that's pulling that masculine energy in. And I take 1 liter of water and 1 coconut every day before eating. Beautiful intermittent fasting, green juice, later on smoothie for breakfast. Beautiful habits. I don't know if this will help you, but I was doing lemon water with the ACV and pink Himalayan salt in the morning, and I found it went down easier. I'll try it. That would be helpful if I could add it to my lemon water and my salt mix. So that would be just like putting two habits together. But I like the way that the lemon water tastes, and I feel like I'm not gonna like the vinegar. It's so good for you though. I'm currently planting succulents in my yard. Oh, I'd love to know what you all are doing. That's beautiful. Happy Sunday. I do want to touch before I head out. Like, if you have any more questions, let me know. But honoring so there's something about these daily habits that's really important. But if we're in female bodies, we have a female hormone cycle, which lasts 28 days, whereas the male hormone cycle lasts 24 hours. So this book that I read was written by a male who has a male hormone cycle, which cycles in 24 hours. So it makes more sense for his body to do the same thing every single day in and day out for 365 days. I think if we're in female bodies and we have more of this flow of like a general chunk of days that feels like each season, right? And in the winter when we're menstruating, maybe that's not the time to go to the gym and work hard. If that doesn't feel good in my body, it might feel fine in yours. But for me, with my hormones, I very much feel like that is a day of rest. So the way that we chunk this is a little bit different. Like, yes, I'm going to show up every day and do like my skincare routine, but each season of our cycle has a different flavor. So you might need to switch up like the food that you eat or the exercise that you do according to the hormone cycle that you're in. And an example would be, I did a whole video about this actually, about cycle syncing, but I'll make sure to link that in the description. But when you're ovulating, you're very charismatic, you're magnetic. Your brain is working in a way that it can communicate ideas really well. So that's a really good time to load in live streaming. So an example would be, maybe if you're someone who records content, you don't record weekly, you record 3 of your live streams in 1 week. And that's still, and then maybe like one at a different time. But for me, I wouldn't schedule a live stream exception when I'm menstruating because I feel very internal. I don't want to be on a stage. I don't really want to speak. I feel very reflective. So it wouldn't make sense for me just to push through that to schedule a live stream because I said I'm going to do it in my structure. But I would load it all. So you zoom out even to like the 28 days, the month, right? And you see how many, if I wanted to do this 3 times a week, that's 12 times a month, then can I load it in certain ways based off of my cycle? Hi, love, you look lovely. Thank you so much, Elle. Hi. For the thyroid, I do fish. Good, that's what I was thinking. And shoulder stand 3 times. Self-massage. Self-massage is so good. That's part of my pleasure practice. And shavasana for the thyroid. And then 1 mudra. I have hypothyroidism and will test soon to see if the marker's improved. I love that you're taking care of yourself and that you're following your body and you're giving your body love and doing the things that feel good to you. I think that's so important. Thank you for sharing. So, any last questions? Anything that you all want to say about this? I hope this was helpful. Routines are very grounding for me. I am a creature of routine, and I try not to be crazy rigid about it. Like if something comes up in my life and there's a life in that thing, I follow it, I let myself flow as well. But if we flow too much, it can be a little unnerving, or you can feel a little like you're floundering, or yeah, like not having structure. You're just like this puddle and there's no container. And so this video is designed to say, okay, what are the things that you're doing? What are the containers you're building? You can think of like carving out a little riverbed for your little river to flow, for your water to flow. And how can you commit to those things even when you're not seeing immediate results? But you know that these things are going to help you, A, feel better, like be in a different state of beingness. C, have integrity because you're showing up for yourself. And then, did I say C? Whatever, B. C, end up contributing to your big picture. Yes, honoring the cycles. The first day of my period, unless it's something pressing, I do low minimal things and rest. I also allow myself to eat whatever I want during those days. Exactly. So it's a little bit different. Someone in a male body may not understand that. So they may not understand how that feels. So they say, okay, well, if you don't do all these things in a day, then that day, I mean, this book was kind of intense in that way. Like, get back on track right away when you fall off track. I wouldn't say that a day in the menstrual cycle, day or two of just completely letting go and letting your body rest and cleanse and rejuvenate. I don't think that takes away from anything of compounding. In fact, I think you could schedule that into your month. Funny that you bring up that video as soon as I hop on live. I was watching that cycle syncing video yesterday. No way, Al. That's an older one too. So that's interesting that that came into your field. And it was really helpful for me structuring my rituals to support my energy. Thank you. That is really that's synchronistic for sure. You are very welcome. I'm glad that helped. I think I did that like 3 years ago now. It was one of my first ones, but I'll definitely let me see if I can find it actually. And then you guys can type any last questions that you have, if you have any. I don't know. Let's see. So that would be under my videos. And yep, here we go. Yeah, 3 years ago. I'll put it in the chat. For me, it feels kind of strange that I've only had my YouTube channel for 3 years. I feel like I've been on here for a lot longer. Please give this video a like if you haven't already. That helps my channel so much. And leave comments if you're watching the replay. Feel free to connect with me however you would like. You can send me a message on Instagram, Facebook. You can leave a comment here, send me an email. If you want to be supported by me in the container of coaching, you can sign up right now for an introductory 3-session package. That link is below. I also have a course called Nervous System of a Goddess, and it's course 1 is soften, 2 is glow. So glow is a really nice one to start implementing these habits that walks you through a lot of structure actually and how to implement habits. I always say, take soften first because that really helps you to understand your nervous system. But if you want to go straight for glow, go for it. You can also bundle them. There's a link to bundle them in the description as well to do both. There's payment plans, so you're welcome to sign up for a payment plan. And I think that's it for me. If you have, yeah, I guess I'll just talk to you guys later. Thank you so much. Happy Sunday.